嗨，大家好，欢迎大家来到我们的公开课。每周五的 Friday, every Friday, 5:30 to 6, we have open class waiting for you, and to share with most of the knowledge and experiences that students need. And also, we will invite the professors, students, or teachers to share their own experiences. Okay. Let's wait for like 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna start today's open class. So today I will be very glad to announce that we invite our previous teacher, Brian, who is currently studying in Yale for the medicine major and also graduate from Stanford. And he will share about his experience and also how hard it is, studying medicine, and medical school is so demanding and rigorous, and how he handled that. And many students have dreamed of becoming a doctor. A lot of my students say, "Hey, I want to apply medicine as my major." So how it really look like? So let's wait a little bit, and then we're gonna start talk about that part. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Brian, are you here? I'm gonna unmute you. All right. Okay. Here we go. Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Hello. Nice meeting you again.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, I just introduced you, but I would like you to introduce yourself again, right? Brian, okay, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brian. Currently a first year medical student at Yale Medical School. I've just matriculated the past year. I graduated from Stanford University in 2017. Took a gap year in between to do some work at 7EDU and finish up some research at Stanford. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
kind of,
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. So, I just mentioned many students, they have always dream of becoming a doctor.
yeah.
So, actually, a lot of students, they just only know like, the doctor is kind of like rich job, right? So basically, if you just, look in the like a glass door or somewhere, it's like ranging greatly by the specialty, and most like the doctor can expect to earn anywhere from over 200,000 to just like 500,000 per year, right? So that's why a lot of students they really want, and also the parents really want the kids to pursue the career in medicine. So because there's like a dream of like a rags to riches story. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to actually really share some experience today. Like, how many people they don't know things like, pursuing a career in medicine. So what is the life truly like, right? So
Yeah.
can we start it?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Should I
Yeah,
just
sure.
start from
Yeah, for my first question. So, what do you think about the life, feels like in pursuing a career in the medicine? Just
Yeah. Well, I'm only a small minority of the way along my path in medicine. But what I can tell you that a lot of people don't realize, especially without uh, without having parents or family members that work in the field, is that you hear about that rich, stable job, making at least 200,000 a year. Um, that really doesn't kick in until much later in your life. So where I'm in right now, I'm obviously studying for my degree. But after I finish my 4 years of med school, if even 4 years, um, we end up going through something called residency, which is where it's like kind of you are paid, you are working, but you definitely aren't making as much as like a full-fledged doctor would, and you're still in training. So the training period for doctors is really long.
Mhm.
So that's kind of rough. Um,
I see. I see.
yeah,
We all know like the medical school is like really demanding, right? So,
yeah,
how you balance like the life, and is there any happy hour? Is like post parties or post the lecture happy hours?
yeah. Well, I think as like everything, like if you're in high school, if you're like in college, you'll find out that like the way to get more free time is really just to work on your study skills. Like, it's about being efficient. Just spending extra time, like spending all day studying, isn't going to help you in the long run. It's just going to burn you out. So yeah, we definitely take time to have fun, go out, have good food, uh, do whatever you like to do. Some people like to hike.
Wow. The thing is, like, I think we mentioned it before about the high school student prepare
Yeah.
for the college, right?
Yeah.
So we're working with students like in high school. So usually they feel like it's so intensive, the competition, the overall, the classes, activities. So what does your high school look like?
What does my high school look like?
Yes.
I graduated from Granite Bay High School. We weren't super competitive. We did have a lot of AP classes, so that's kind of how I set myself apart in that school. But I mean, knowing the Bay Area for what it is, it was definitely not as competitive as many Bay Area schools are. Um, Definitely got more competitive, going on, especially going from a relatively small school. Small public school to Stanford, where everyone's like really smart. It really does. It's a really humbling experience, not being the smartest person in the room all the time. Um,
And how you planned it, your high school?
how did I plan high school?
So, for example, what kind of like courses you selected and what kind of activities you chose?
Yeah. So in high school, if you're interested in medicine, definitely try to take as much chemistry and biology as you can,
So
because
exactly you want to choose medicine as your major since you're in high school.
yeah. I kind of knew in freshman year in high school because I went through a summer program where I got to shadow doctors, and uh, and that's kind of how I got my experience. If honestly, like if you don't have that kind of experience and you're interested in medicine, like that's the first place to start. In high school, you can definitely get involved in shadowing, or volunteering in some sort of clinical capacity. Um, but in terms of high school planning, like take challenging courses, challenge yourself, uh, focusing on especially this like biology and chemistry are going to be the biggest help to you in a pre-med undergrad curriculum.
I see. But we all know, like everybody know, like if you want to get in Stanford, you have to study, like the honor class or AP class. You have to get like how many APs, how high is your SAT. So is there any like unique part for your path?
I think so. As far as like SATs, APs, and all that stuff, like as long as you're challenging yourself, like that's your ticket into consideration. Like what really is going to set you apart is the kind of stuff that you do outside of that. Because everyone who applies to Stanford, at least everyone qualified at Stanford, has everything, right? Like everyone has the same sort of stats amongst the people they're actually considering, and they can't admit everyone who's qualified. So they're going to look at things like the things that you show passion in while you're in high school. Like, do you get involved in things that you're genuinely interested in? Do you show that kind of interest through like, if you say that you want to do like medicine, for example, do you actually go out, seek out opportunities in volunteering and shadowing and perhaps research if it's available? That's a bit tougher, but yeah.
I see. And how about the essay section? When you apply to Stanford, are you like, because I heard the story like when we have conversation before, and actually you're like try to choose between the essay that your counselor tried to recommend and the one like you really prefer. So end up like you just submit the one you wrote by yourself, and because your counselor doesn't have time to look into it, right? So
Yeah.
how important do you think your essay played the role?
I think because I had some creative flexibility with the essay and how I ended up pursuing my idea more than the one that my counselor at the time had provided, I think it stood out more just because of the voice that I was able to put behind my essay, and I think that really helps your like the admissions officer in charge of your region really make a decision in that regard.
I see. And we know like from the medical ranking, and Stanford is like number 3, and the Yale is like number 13. I mean, I got like why you get in Stanford because everyone wants to get in Stanford, right? But why Yale?
Why Yale? So as far as medical school, I know for a lot of high schoolers it's kind of far away right now to be thinking about that kind of thing. But the curriculum for med schools is pretty rough. There's a lot to learn in a very short amount of time. I think Yale's one of the best places to do it because they treat you like an adult. who can actually manage their time correctly. And that works out for some people, doesn't work out for some other people. It happens to be the kind of place that I like. The name doesn't hurt for sure in applying to residency. And there's a lot of research that I'm interested in here. So,
Okay. And what is the difference between the life in Stanford and in Yale?
well, that's like twofold because, like on one hand, I was at Stanford for undergrad, right, and that's a different lifestyle than like being at Yale for medical school. So medical school, there's just more stuff. You have more classes per day,
But I
and
heard
it just
you also get admitted for Yale when you were graduate from high school.
yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
choose.
If you want an idea of like Yale versus Stanford as like a place to go for college, um, I mean I might be biased, but Stanford has a better campus in my opinion. It's more beautiful in my opinion. Although if you want to be more like entrenched in the community, if you want to like do a lot of like volunteer work, I think Yale might be the better place to do that because Stanford's a little bit bubbly. It's in the South Bay. You could go to like East Palo Alto, but like it's not the same as like being in that community, you know?
I see.
Yeah.
And do you consider yourself to be a 学霸? You know, have you heard about this?
Yeah. Well, in medical school, we would call those people gunners. So people who try sometimes too hard at the expense of their own health. Yeah. I wouldn't consider myself that kind of person. I'm actually pretty laid back. I know like people probably don't expect that from me, but
I can tell you're like kind of yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to stress myself out. I never like work myself to the point where like, um, where I don't think I could like maintain that over a long period of time because like really, the uh, important thing is that you're able to maintain like your health, and that'll put you in the best spot to succeed in academics and elsewhere in your life.
So do you consider yourself to be a talented student? Like you spend like less time, you get you're kind of like
I
less,
spent
you want to get a straight A all the way down, right?
I spend my time efficiently. I put in effort when it really matters. But if it's like, but if I like lose some here and there, if I get like a say like a 92 versus a 95, it makes no difference to me.
I,
Yeah.
I see. Oh, thank you for sharing. And actually, we get a lot of different questions from like audience and
Yeah.
create audience to ask questions. So one of the question private messaged me say, what type of activities did you do outside of school during the high school and during the college?
Yeah, yeah. So I did both some research and volunteering during high school. So I was living in Sacramento at the time, Granite Base near Sacramento. So I got involved with volunteering with a autism clinic. Um, it wasn't that much of a time commitment, to be honest. Like it was like an afternoon every Friday, for example. I would go watch people's kids while they were going through autism treatment and evaluation. So that was my like primary source of volunteering. Um, I also was involved in a relatively like minor capacity, like some research with a professor at UC Davis, um, under the guidance of a graduate student and all that. Just a simple data analysis, not a whole lot of crazy stuff. Yeah.
I see. So I feel like the true passion you can never hide. So basically, you have the passion for the medicine. That's why it shows, right? And
Yeah, and I think the important thing is sticking with something over a long period of time. And it's very tempting to try to pad your resume with like a lot of different things. But I found it's way better and it's more interesting to like stick with something in the long term and like just keep going.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, one question: how much your parents push you?
How much did my parents push me?
Yes, because that's very important.
Uh,
A lot of like parents that believe like if you really want to push your kids into the IVs or they have to really push hard. So this is some questions that usually we are asked by the parents.
Yeah. I think I had a decent balance. My dad was a little bit more on the pushy side, but my mom kind of buffered that a little bit more, so it wasn't as like full on all the time. For me, they really like what they did was to keep me accountable for doing things I was responsible for, making sure I was um, like staying on top of my stuff. But beyond that, like they to some degree knew when to like let it go a little bit. Sometimes kids are going to make mistakes. They aren't going to be like top of their class all the time. And I think they definitely pushed me to some degree, but definitely not to an extreme, I
So
would
they
say.
didn't give you the pressure, saying like, "Hey,
Yeah.
now you're in high school. You need to go to Stanford. Your goal is Stanford."
Yeah,
So
it wasn't so much that I needed to be go like somewhere specifically. They were more like it would be nice if you could go to these kinds of schools, but we understand that like if doesn't work out, right?
yeah, I was pretty
If
amazed
you
by what your mom told me. Like she told me like I asked her like, "What is your dream school before?" And she told me like, she told you like whichever school accepts you, that is your dream. I was like, "Oh, that's very reasonable and very nice, and there's no pressure on you." Yeah, is that true?
yeah. Yeah, I mean like I don't claim to be a very superstitious person, but it helps not to like be like dead set on a single school because like even if you're fully qualified, like it's kind of like playing the lottery, especially with schools like Stanford, especially that are seeing like really low admission rates because of how many people are applying. It's kind of like winning the lottery to a degree.
And not only lottery, but also the corruption, because we know the news, right?
Oh yeah, that plays a factor, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's why I think like the parents should get like reasonable expectation. Plus, if the kids has to be pushed during the high school, I mean, he definitely cannot survive in the college because it's more intensive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely. I've seen many of my classmates at Stanford, like they were pushed really hard as kids and they kind of burnt out and crashed in undergrad to a degree.
okay, and
Yeah.
those people who burn out in the college, did they survive
Hmm?
in college or they?
Well, yeah, they figured something out. Most of the people I knew, like, ended up like getting through college pretty well, getting a good job at the
Okay,
end.
I see.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Say, how do you manage your time during high school? Do you play video games?
I did play video games during high school when I had the time.
Oh, whenever you have time. What is the
Per week, I would usually like Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. You
Oh,
know,
that's a lot of time.
not all day, not all day. Just in the evenings for a couple hours, that kind of thing,
And your parents
or with friends.
and your
Yeah,
parents
yeah,
is okay, right?
yeah,
Oh, that's they have a good, now it's a good excuse for this high school students. Say, like, you see, Ryan playing.
yeah,
I can play. I think the most important thing is they need to know how to balance, how to,
yeah,
know when to stop. I think that's the important thing. Parents should talk to the kids. You
yeah,
cannot just like grab and smash their video game stuff, and then you just give
yeah,
really like it to be zero or to be a lot, right? So when you go
yeah.
to push them to be like zero time to play video game, probably they want to go another extreme. They just only want to play video games, right?
Yeah, I think especially with the high school age being as volatile as it is, the more like parents try to like confine their children, the more their children are going to try to break free of that confinement and taking away things without offering some sort of compromise or some way to like better manage. Like it is hard sometimes to manage your time as a high school student. You want to do more fun things, but you also have all these responsibilities and like a parent's role is more in the line of like helping your kid like manage that time, but not telling them exactly to do what when, and that they can't have zero fun because in the end, like it's about work life balance. Um,
They have to learn the life
yeah,
balance when they're in
because if they don't learn it now, they're people are just going to take advantage of them in college, in the workforce, in medical school. That's actually a big thing we deal with in medicine is that a lot of our students are people who have like um, been pushed or pushed themselves through undergrad or high school they don't really know what it means to have a healthy work-life balance, and then they work themselves too hard, and that leads to, you can't do that forever, you know.
I see. Yes,
Yeah.
agree with you. Yes, there's one more question from one parent saying, what kind of program you did to shadow a doctor?
Yeah, so there were more official programs. So I'm not sure if they have it now because it's been a good number of years since I did it. But Brown had a program called So You Want to Be a Doctor, where they would it was like a summer program where we like had a whole formal thing set up where we went to shadow doctors. But honestly, the best thing to do is if you have a local academic center, like if you live around Stanford, you can ask a Stanford doctor, even like your own doctor, your own kid's doctor, or another doctor they've seen, um, to I just ask them, send them email and ask them if you could shadow them, and they may say yes, they may say no, depending on what their schedule looks like. Um,
And actually
but
help some students to apply the summer camp. Some of the really competitive medical summer camp is really helpful and to
yeah,
get to experience a little bit more. And then some
yeah,
of the hospital and the doctor, they can give some like research program.
yeah,
We were just talking about one of the case today, and the students got into Stanford again with the same medicine major. And she is working in a clinic to handle the urine research all the summer. And she said, like, that's the most disgusting job she has ever had. But
yeah,
that experience made her stand out because that's really not everybody can handle that part. Yeah. So
yeah, yeah.
like summer intern or research definitely can help out, right?
Yeah, and also if you do that summer program and you like in high school and you find out you really don't like it, it's not really your thing, that's the best time to get out. The earlier you find out that you don't want to do medicine, the better.
Right.
Like once you're deep in and $200,000 in debt, there's really no going back. So you want to find out if medicine is really your thing as early as you can.
You know,
And
so you
those,
have to spend those like school fee every year. The tuition is like really high.
yeah,
And yeah, that's gonna be like ongoing stuff until you become like a doctor, right? That's gonna be a
yeah.
lot expensive.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing that people don't, especially like high school kids and their parents don't really think about is that you accumulate a lot of debt uh, going through the whole system. If you're lucky, you might not end up with a lot of debt, but through scholarships or parental help. But uh, but most people end up with a good amount of debt just because of how much school we go through and how long it takes for us to pay it back.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So the medicine or becoming a doctor is not like from rags to riches story, right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things to going on, you know, a lot of things to conquer. And then
Yeah.
finally, or when one day you become a doctor, you of course gonna have like everything you deserve to that, right? But the things like this long journey is really hard, and also a lot of things like it's not like expected. So if the students is not really ready for those challenge, like hardworking, I would say like sleepless all way long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this is not for medicine. It's not for becoming a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
If
cool.
I guess if I can say one last thing, like the most important thing is if you're
More things. It's no less thing.
well, if there's probably one thing you take away from this is that like no amount of like, oh, it's a stable job, oh, I like the money, or my parents want me to do it, or whatever, is going to push you through all like the 10 years or so of training that you need to be a doctor. Like if you want to go through the whole medical track with all of its difficulties, like you have to be genuinely interested yourself, and that's probably the most important thing for any student considering that track.
And a passion is always the best teacher.
Yeah.
And so far, you still believe your choice, or have you ever
Yeah.
doubted it?
Yeah. I've definitely had my doubts, especially more during undergrad. But I mean, in the end, it's the thing I like doing the most out of, you know, all the different things I've thought through. So,
Yeah, I can tell you're a good doctor. You know, I trust you so much. All right. Okay, so do you remember like when we teaching together and
yeah.
some of the parents like they're so, you know, like strict with their kids, and do you have any suggestion for the high school parents?
I think I think a lot of this comes down to like if you're more worried about your kid's future than your kid is, like or about anything. If you're more worried about something than your kid is, you can't really force them to do it. You have to work with them and like lead them towards something, but not so much like confine them into a certain track, right? Um, and sometimes like the parent the parents are too strict, and that actually hurts the kids. Um, like one of my students, I'm not going to name anybody out, but like their mom like sat next to them the entire time we would have class, and anytime they would get something wrong, um, their mom would yell at them, and that's really not helpful.
Exactly.
Like
And I was
when
so
we're trying to teach.
patient sitting there still having class with them.
Yeah. And it's a waste of the parents' time. It's a waste of the kids' time. It's a waste of like my as a teacher's time. If there's no room to make mistakes, so you really like in a learning environment is a good time to make mistakes. And I learn more from my mistakes than I learn from getting things right. If I get things right all the time, then it's not going to stick. But I remember like missing a certain question, and my teacher would tell me a way to remember to not get it wrong next time. And just letting your kids make mistakes in protected environments is good.
Yeah, and the mistake make the earlier the better because you don't want to
Yeah.
really harm the path, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to give your kids room to make mistake. Give them space to grow, and also let the passion to lead them. I think that's the very helpful tips from you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
So I'm going to like tell everyone who is here, we're gonna have like on-site events for next Friday, which is next Friday, 5:30, and the Cupertino Community Center in the social room. We hope to, share more experience with you guys about SAT, SAT, and the planning stuff. And thank you so much, Brian, today, and hope you enjoy your Yale's life. And maybe we're gonna invite you to come back to share more with students again. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. If anyone have a question right now, so please just let us know, and we can still wait a little bit. Oh, one more question. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, hold on a little bit. There's one more question. Say, did you do the research program during the summer camp or throughout the school year?
So most of the most substantial research I did was during a summer camp, because that's a protected amount of time where you can actually like delve into it. I did do a little bit of research here and there throughout the school year, just minor things, a little bit of data processing, for example. But really, like, you're kind of too busy during the school year to really get anything meaningful done. Mm-hmm. So most of that's during the summer.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And
Thank you. Yeah, what else? You made
yeah. So like if you can't find anything nearby, there are always like the different like summer camps that you can go to for research. I'm sure people know about those.
Okay, so I think I'm going to send them one of the links regarding the summer camp, and that can help them to know more about the competitive summer camp. Yeah. So I'm going to send the link to the chat place. So anyone who are interested in the summer camp or know more about it can read this article, or if you have more questions, just let us know. Thank you again, Brian. Okay, see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
All right， 谢谢大家参与我们今天的公开课啊！如果有任何的问题的话，可以依旧跟我们联系。我在这个 chat box 里边发了一个我们的这个 summer program 的一个 link。那么这个 link 里边呢，会有我们的一些介绍关于 summer camp。那么之后我们还会写更多的关于这个 summer camp 的一些 research， 一些分享。那么一些有用的比较 top summer camp 的话，可以用来帮助到大家。那么记着，就是说用这个 passion， 找到孩子的 passion 是最重要的。就是不能为了 summer camp 而去上 summer camp， 这个是没有任何意义的。如果能通过这样的 summer camp， 然后来去引导到学生，引导到孩子，这样才是我们觉得这个最有帮助的这种方式。那么同时呢，我们的3月22号的线下讲座会在 Cupertino 的 Community Center 举行，在 Social Room， 是在3月22号的星期五的下午的5点半到7点之间。 那么我们会分析接下来下半年的 SAT 和 ACT 的考试的规律和考点。那么同时我们也会把这个各个的 AP 考试的一个满分宝典进行分享，同时我们还会去分享一些这个 diagnostic test， 可以帮助孩子们对 AP 考试有一个提前的一个了解。那么到场的话会获得一些免费的咨询和各种的考试的真题和模拟卷，所以说呢，请大家可以在这个 link 上面去报名，或者是打我们的电话来报名。那么再次感谢大家今天的参与，如果有任何的问题的话，可以再次通过电话或者是邮件的方式来联系到我们。那么我把我们的电话发到这个群里408-216-9109，然后我们的这个 email 呢，可以打我们的 email 是 info@7edu.org。OK， 好，那么今天呢，我们的公开课就到这里了，再次感谢大家的参与，我们就下一周五再见，下一周五 Cupertino Community Center 再见。OK， 线下见，拜拜。